Hello, my name is Kelly Bluen. Welcome to episode 4 of our Inktober challenge. This challenge is meant for us to try to draw a little bit every day for 31 days. If you don't do all 31 days, that is okay. If you don't do them all in a row, that is okay. Just challenge yourself to draw a little bit, and if it happens to be every day, then wonderful. All right, we are on day 5. We have already done 4 of our beautiful tangles, and I have it linked below in the description of this video, but there's a packet from Stephanie Jennifer, a CZT, and she gives us the 31 prompts. So that's what I am using each day to choose what tangle we are drawing. So today is StarRite by Nina Dreher-Godertz. I'm probably saying that incorrectly, but thank you, Nina, for StarRite. I'm using my micron pen, a graphite pencil, and a blending tool, and my 2" by 2" bijou tiles. These 3 and these little tiles are all available at Zentangle.com. And then behind me, I have a compilation piece. And as you can see, I'm adding a tangle each day in the hopes that I get all 31 on here as a beautiful piece of art at the end of the month. These are just cardstock. You can get them online or at most craft stores. All right, we're gonna begin with our little bijou tile. Let's zoom in. Make sure we are focused. All right, StarRite. Let's turn this around and get started. I'm gonna go ahead and use pen right away, but if you would like to use pencil, you may. I'm gonna show you a quick little sneak peek of it on my calendar I have here. This is what it looks like, and of course there are variations and embellishments that you can do, but this is the general shape we are looking to get today. Okay. I'm going to do one right here on this corner, and then I'll do a smaller one up here, just so we have 2 times to kind of practice it before we put it on our larger piece. So it begins with a circle, and just make sure you've got room for those little pieces sticking out on the sides. I feel like if I had put it here, I would have been able to make it larger, but that's okay. It still works. All right, and then to make these little arms, we're doing 5, which 5 always is difficult for me because I can't always get them even. So I'm not gonna overthink it. I'm just gonna place 5 and hope that it works out. So you can do a curve, you could do a straight line, or you could do kind of a lazy S, which is what I'm going to do. So it's just a curve like that. And when doing 5, I like to do the top one, and then I do kind of like 2 arms and 2 legs, and that sort of works out for me. So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna put one over here, a lazy S, a lazy S, and then I need the 2 legs. And if it's easier for you to turn it as you go, do that. All right. So this ends up looking like a little starfish, which makes it fun to embellish or fun to add to your coastal tangles. It's just kind of a cute little one to add that's very organic. Okay, for this next part, it's easiest for me if I put a little dot in between those arms and put it fairly close to the circle. This is just what works for me. You might find a different artist that does it a little bit differently, But when we make these little parts coming out, we want to make sure we don't go all the way to the circle. So these dots are my reminder of that. They're also a good starting point or an ending point, depending on if you want to draw up or draw down. So I'm going to draw up because I like going out and then in. So I'm going to go out a little bit and then tuck in, and on this side I'm going to go out a little and tuck in. That's easiest for me, but you do what you want to get a shape similar to that. Okay, now I have these two dots again. So I'm going to go out and then in, out and then in. Look at those cute little wavy appendages. Out and tuck in, out and tuck in. I don't usually draw up and away. Usually I'm pulling lines towards myself, but for this one, I just find it easier. And there we go. We've got our cute little StarRite. Now, if you use Stephanie Jennifer's packet that is linked below, you can click on this day and it will take you to the step out. And in the step out that Nina has created, she's got all different variations and they're all quite different. So some of them have, very thick lines in the middle. Some she has doubled and then embellished. Other ones, she's embellished one side of each piece. So you do what you want. Again, these are all meant to be played with, so you do what you like. But I think what I'm going to do is put in some little circles. So I'm going to go to the left side here, and I'm just going to put some little circles. And it kind of makes me think of a starfish from the ocean. So I kind of like that. And there we go. And in the middle, my lines kind of crossed into the middle, so I'm going to clean that up by making that middle a little bit thicker. And then in Stephanie Jennifer's packet, she does one where she puts these little curves in these pointy parts and inks them in. And it's just a little bit of like adding some weight to some of these lines. And I love that technique. And you can always go back and thicken your lines if you want to make them a little bit bolder. But there we go. So pretty. All right, I'm going to do one more this time. I'm going to purposely go large to fill in this space here, which means I'm going to put my circle a little bit bigger and more towards the center, so I've got room for some big S curves. All right, instead of starting at the very top again, I'm going to turn it and I'm going to start over here with my first lazy S. And then those two kind of arms. And I love that these are going to bump into each other. And that one I did a completely different direction and it will still work. You can even make these a little bit longer to take up space. All right, the next step that I like is putting in a little dot in between each line and close to the middle, but not all the way down. And that gives you that look of these not touching. I like that. All right, I'm gonna go out and tuck in, out and tuck in. Continue all the way around. I was hoping this would go behind this one, but I didn't quite make it large enough, so they're just gonna kind of sit beside each other. Okay, I'm going to take these center lines and I'm going to give them a little tethered aura. So I'm starting at the point, going a little bit wide, and then tucking into the next point. And it does not matter which side you go on, because they all end up just having a double line in the center. And then inside these, I'm going to use that technique where we kind of ink in a little at the top, ink in a little at the bottom, and leave this jagged edge in the middle that's nice and white. It's such a pretty and kind of dramatic effect. So I come from the top, I come from the bottom, and then I leave this little jagged edge in the center. Look how pretty. Okay, if you want to do any more embellishing, you can. I'm going to put some tiny little dots up the side, just to give it a little bit of texture. I love how that looks. And if you want to do those little bits of weighting inside those points, you can do that. And now, because mine ended up not overlapping, I'm going to do an aura around each of them, but I'm going to do the small one first. So I'm going to do this aura just to sort of make it larger. And I like how now it's tucking under. And now if I aura the larger one, and it's okay if yours go off the edge of the paper. Got a lot of noises by me today. There's an airplane going overhead now. There was workers outside banging around. All right, so now they kind of have melded together a little bit. And because it's kind of oceany, if you want to add in some wavy lines or maybe some little like bubbles, you can do that. It's a fun little enhancement on this one, or embellishment. And I do think some wavy lines, just to sort of give it that ocean feel. Okay, I'm going to sign it and then I'm going to do some shading. All right, I've got my graphite pencil. The first thing I'm going to do is go around that center. I love doing that. I'm going to do that on both of them. Just go around the outside of that center area. And then spread that out and away from the center. Lovely. And then I'm going to go on the left side of each of these lines, and I'm going to put a little bit of graphite. I'm going to turn it as I go so I stay to that left side. If you have a different way that you would like to shade this, please do it. There's really no rules for shading when we're doing the Zentangle method, because we're not really doing it for shadows. We're doing it more for just depth and interest. So let's see what this looks like. Beautiful. Look at how flat this one looks and how this one has much more movement and depth to it. Okay, same thing down here. I'm going to go that left side, which is the side with the little circles. And I think I'm going to fill in, no, I'm not going to. I was going to fill in those circles just to bring some of that darkness into this one like I have here, but that's okay. I like the lightly colored ones. All right, go on the left side of each of those. And then just push it out slightly. And I like sort of adding it to that left tip on each of these. Okay, that looks great. And then I'm just going to add a little bit around my bubbles. And I'm going to give some little swirls by those waves. Okay, I'm going to go around the bubbles and the little waves. I'm just going to let that go like that. And there we go. StarRite. Just beautiful. Okay, let's add this to our larger piece here and try to figure out where we want that to go. I keep wanting to put something in here, but I feel like this has too many points and things. I feel like it will get lost. So I think I'm going to put one right here, kind of nestle it into this area. I think that's what I'm going to do. Yours could go anywhere. And I'm going to sketch it out with a pencil first, just so I know how big to make it. Because again, I want to take up, you know, almost the size of this tile each time I place a tangle, so that we end up with enough space to put all 31 and we don't have things too tiny. So I'm going to maybe put the circle part here. That feels too small to me. I'm going to move it right here. I'm going to make it a little bit larger because I want this arm to be nice and long. So I'm going to do an arm there and there, there. It's hard for me to make S's as I turn there and there. Okay, that seems like a good size. Again, if yours is too small, you can make these lines longer. You can make the center larger. That feels good. Okay, I'm first going to put in that circle. And then these lazy S's. And then I'm going to put those little dots in between each of those arms. Okay, now I'm going to do the thing where I go out and then in, out and then in. And I love the shape that that makes when we do the outwards part and then come in. Out and in. All right, that nestled in there pretty good. And then I think I'm going to use the ones with the dark lines, just because I like how bold that is. So I'm going to put these tethered little auras on each one. And again, that doesn't matter which side you do it on because it ends up just being a double line. So it works on either side. And I love like halfway through just taking a peek at like the depth that these ones have because of the shading and because of all these little elements we've kind of cemented them together. And then I draw this little star one and he just seems so flat and like it's just sort of floating out there. And then watch the magic as we embellish it and change it and shade it and how it becomes part of our compilation. Okay, I'm going to do that technique where we come up with some ink and we go down and leave these little jagged middles. I love the drama of that. And in the center, I'm going to give a little curve and a small curve, like a little reflection. I'm going to do those tiny dots on the side just because I like that. Then I'm going to aura this whole thing. And when I aura, I love kind of extending out these tips a little bit. And now look at how, because some of these borders are tucked in behind, all of a sudden this is starting to feel like a part of the rest of this. I have this tiny little space here, so I'm going to ink it in. And this one over here is open. Do you see that? Let me zoom in. That part is open, so inking it in, it would just kind of end, right? So I think what I'm going to do is put a circle in here, maybe even aura that circle, and give it a reflection. And now I've created this small area here that I can add ink to. And if this area had been larger, I would have added some more circles or maybe just some auraed lines. But look at now how these are connecting it all together. And I forgot to do that little bit of weighting, you know, where we add these little curves in here. So if you want to go back and do that, you can. I just forgot. And you could do it around these edges as well, these outer edges, if you wanted to. All right, I love this bubble here. I'm gonna add a couple more over here just because I think it really enhances this and it matches that circle in the middle. And I like doing these little auras around them just to let them take up a little bit more space. So I put in my circle and then I just aura the part that I can see. All right, let's do some shading and then we will be done with this one. All right, to shade this one, I like to go around the circle first. So I'm gonna do that, take my little blending stump and push it away from that line. We want that to be a nice smooth transition from dark to light. And then this time I'm gonna go on the right-hand side, just so I don't cover up those cute little dots. And it doesn't matter which side you go on. Just make sure that graphite goes right against the line. Just beautiful. I'm going to go around these bubbles. And then also, like, this bubble is laying on top of these two, so I could add a little shadow there. And then I'm going to add the shading to the outside of Toodles because it goes over some of the StarRite, some of the bubbles, and I just think it's a good time to do that. So I'm going around the outside edge of Toodles. And then I'm going to go along the outside edge of StarRite. Because now whatever tangles I put near these, they're already gonna have that little bit of shading. And look at how just putting it over this little bubble makes this bubble sort of disappear into the background. And I can even put some here where StarRite goes over it and push that back a little. So I like adding the shading on this cardstock. It's nice and smooth, but when you're using the Zentangle tiles, I feel like the paper absorbs that graphite better, where this just sort of has it laying on top. Okay, so I've added all that shading. And now watch when I zoom out. Look at how beautiful this area is. And a few minutes ago, it just looked like this flat star shape. And now it looks like it's meant to be part of this whole piece. I love that so much. And as long as I'm standing here or sitting here for a second, I'm going to add shading to these two borders on the outside. I feel like I should start doing that each time I draw a tangle. Let's shade the outside so we're not always guessing what's bumping into it or what's tucking in behind it. We'll just automatically have these little shadows cast. I'm going to do that one, and then I'm going to do this one. Okay, it just takes a second. But I like how that looks. Should we do festoon as well? Let's do it. A little bit of extra work today, but we will be happy later that we did this. So just whatever parts have the white background. Okay, so one more thing is this festoon that's kind of, you know, hanging up here and it's got the space underneath it. I'll put a tangle or something in here later, but right now I'm going to add an orb or a circle, and I'm going to give it a little orid frame like that. And then down here, I could add auras like I did over here, but I'm just gonna ink in this tiny space I have left. If it was wider, I would have added more of those auras or circles with auras. But now that I've done that, and I can add some shading to the outside of this little guy. Now it doesn't feel like a space I have to fill. Does that make sense? It's just kind of cemented down in there. I'm gonna give it a friend. I'm gonna do one right next to it as well. Okay, give that a little bit of shading. I could just play all day. I don't ever want to stop. All right, there we go. We've got days 1 through 5. Let's take a look at all the ones that we have done. They're just so much fun. I don't remember what order. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you're gonna love tomorrow's number 6. So check out the links below. I've got a link to Stephanie Jennifer's packet. I have a link to my Patreon account. If you would like to watch these videos commercial free, you can join my Patreon for $5. I also have a link to my Let's Tangle page. It's not a membership. You just go there and it's a great place to see what everybody's working on and share your work. Thank you so much, and we will see you tomorrow for episode 6.